In today's walk, we talk about what a typical training week looks like, including how to divide your mileage between the days. We also talk about what we're going to be doing next week on our social distance time.
Welcome to Inniswood Parks. It's a gray day in Ohio. But the nice thing is, there's not many people at work today. Just doing some work. And we're going to go for a walk out to the woods. Just a walk today. Something that I haven't done in a long time is run multiple days consistently, and that's what I did last week. Did 7 days in a row after not having run more than once a week for months, I think. So today we're just going on the boardwalk. Should be quiet back there. Most people that visit Inniswood go back toward the gardens and the pond and some other activities. We may go back there too. There's a cool tree house and a little path that takes you by little interesting ruins looking place. Not sure of the history of it, but I do know I like this path. It's just quiet, especially in the middle of the week. There's hardly ever anybody here. Okay. So this is going to be, if we do a loop on the boardwalk, that's going to be where we come out. This is a half-mile boardwalk. Something I'm planning on doing next week is actually doing a sample week of what typical training looks like for cross-country or just distance running in general. So on Monday of next week, we're planning on doing a long run. Something I talked about with John is the training cycles, different lengths of cycles, mesocycles, macrocycles, microcycles. I'm sure there's all sorts of other different lengths of cycles. Part of the reason that the Olympics is 4 years apart is because that's when peak performances happen. That's one of those larger cycles, is a 4-year cycle. And for especially distance and endurance athletes, every 4 years you can get a new personal best, personal record, depending on how you want to say it. But next week, on Monday, we're going to go through a weekly cycle of what a typical training week looks like. So Monday next week is going to be a distance, long, easy distance. Then Tuesday would be followed by a recovery run. Wednesday is typically just a short run followed by either a weight workout, some sort of other plyometrics, something to get core workout, something besides punishing the legs. Thursday would be some sort of a repeat workout. If you're with a team, the repeat workout is usually mile repeats, 1,000-meter repeats, 800-meter repeats, hill repeats, all sorts of different ways you can do that. Fartleks, if you're running with a group. That's a big Thursday workout, followed by a recovery workout similar to Tuesday on Friday. And then a race is what usually happens on Saturdays if you're following that schedule. If you're doing racing, whether it's 5K, 10K, or marathon, if your race is on a Sunday, you can shift things around. But typically for students and most 5Ks, they're on Saturdays unless it's a turkey trot, hot chocolate 5K, or a lot of times marathons are on Sundays. But I'm sure you're smart enough that you can shift things around to your convenience. None of the workouts that I'll be putting myself through are going to be necessarily the fastest workouts, but it's the type of workout that really matters here. The last 5K I actually did, kind of did it as a joke, but as a coach, I had just one athlete, and they scheduled things in a way so that the varsity team that we were coaching ran the first race of the day, then the girls varsity ran 2 races after that, something along those lines. And that was around 9 a.m. Not until 4 p.m., maybe 4 p.m. was when it was over, so around 3 p.m., the open race started. And I had only one athlete that was not on varsity, because we only had 8 boys on the team that were either, I can't remember if it was just 8 boys total or 8 healthy boys, but we raced 7 because it was the district meet. And then the 8th runner was a senior, and this was going to be his last race of high school because he didn't do track either. So rather than just telling him, sorry, I'm not going to wait around for 7 hours, wait around with him, and ended up running the race with him. I put on one of the team uniforms, and I was the hairiest high schooler out there that day. And I did all right. I think I did a 24-minute 5K on a lark, but that was the last race I did. So I'm not going to do anything impressive when it comes to the distance of the run next Monday, although it would be nice to get a good 8 miles. One of the sort of old runner's tales is that typical healthy male can run 6 miles just out of the blue. They'll be all right, they'll be sore the next day, but they do have the ability to run 6 miles on a lark. And a typical female runner can do 4 just on a lark, as long as you're not running on bad knees, severely overweight, or unhealthy in some other sort of way. As long as you're average health, that's typically what people can do. So since I have been running a little bit more, hopefully I can run more than what a typical person can do on a lark, and I'll try to run 8 miles. And for that, may do a route on the Olentangy Trail. The only bad thing about that is that a large portion of it is along the highway, but if the noise isn't too bad on there, I'll hopefully do a 8-mile run on Monday, because depending on the weekly mileage that you're going for, the typical week is 20% of your weekly mileage is done on Monday in the form of a long run. Another 20% is done on Thursday in the form of repeats, and then the rest of the mileage is split up between the rest of the days, including the race on Saturday. Not just the race distance, but also the warm-up and cool-down that you should be doing before you race. Sometimes that is hard, especially in large marathons, to get a warm-up, but the typical thing that we did on Monday, Thursday is that we do, let's say it was a 50-mile week, which is a pretty good number of miles. If it were a 50-mile week, be doing 10 miles on Monday and just a no warm-up or cool-down, but long, good-paced run. And on Thursday, that would look more like 2-mile warm-up, 2-mile cool-down. And if we're doing mile repeats, it'd be 5-mile repeats. So that there you have 9. And then if you did want to make it an even percentage with the rest of the Monday mileage, so it would be 10-mile total, you might be able to count the jogging or walking in between the mile repeats and round up, or just do a little bit longer warm-up, cool down. Now from here, if we turn left, that would take us to that boardwalk, or that ends right at the entrance of the boardwalk. If we go straight, that goes into the gardens. If we turn right, that'll eventually also get us closer to the garden. So we'll turn right. It's nice. Columbus is fairly flat, no mountains at all, some hills, but there's a small hill that overlook down to the creek here, so we'll take a look once we get there. So that's a little bit more detail of what a week will look like, and we'll go through each day one by one next week. So for me, I'm putting these videos out the day after I do it, so that would probably work out better, so that Sunday I can do the long run, but not put the video out until Monday afternoon, and then do the same thing the following days. Never done a run at Inniswood because there really isn't a long, consistent trail. The boardwalk is a half-mile. I think this is called Spring Run Trail. It's another half of a mile probably. So there's not the distance here to do a long run. This is a great place though for hiking. Great place to take the kids. I almost said let the kids off the leash. You can't have dogs here, and I don't put my kids on leashes, but I usually do have them in a stroller or on a bike, so that does contain them a little bit, but no dogs here, definitely no dogs off the leash. Since the plan for next week is to go through a typical training week, this week what I may do is try to get out. The weather is supposed to be sunnier, but still cool, which is actually really good running weather, sunny, cool weather. What I may do is go for a couple of bike rides, and it may be the way I record the long run on a Monday too. No, I won't cheap out on that. I'll actually do a long run, and you can do the Sufferfest with me. I'll have to figure out what I want to do on Thursday. So I don't want to, I have access to a track, but I don't necessarily want to go to a track, because most people I don't think, would have access to a track, even if they live in a town where they don't lock it up at night. So there are some creative ways of doing interval training without a track, or without a trail even. We talked about doing fartlicks, and those are easier to do with a team. One version of that is the Indian run, where you run from the back of the pack to the front of the pack as a surge, and then slowly people cycle through so that you're doing it more than once. There's also using telephone poles as distance markers, saying I'm going to run the length of 4 telephone poles at pace, then I'll jog for either an equal distance or equal time, or just in general. And there's other creative ways of using just a standard watch to time things, to make sure that things are even as well. Now here's the lookout. Last time I was here, there were leaves on the trees, and I didn't realize just how close this lookout is to the garden area of the Inniswood Park. There's the creek that runs through. You can see the trail on the other side, neighborhood to the right. So we're gonna go down the hill, wind up at the garden. It's probably where more people are. I've only seen a couple at the beginning. Hello. Good afternoon. Hi.
Formula without worrying about it too much.
If you are local to Westerville, this is probably one of your favorite places to take a walk. Again, not a great place to run. Probably, it wouldn't be enjoyable because there's not enough distance to get a good run in. 2, probably would make a lot of other people uncomfortable just because it's tight turns, gardens, not a biking trail or running trail. It's really well kept gardens, but of course winter just ended a week ago, so nothing is its best form right now. This would be another nice place to take a garden tour, maybe with a 360 camera, so people could do a VR version of this. There's a little creek, a little bridge. Take a right here past the pond. Great place to have the kids look for frogs. Catch and release, of course. Thinking about VR, there's a company called VR Hike, and they are not-for-profit company, but they basically just want to provide virtual reality experiences for people that are otherwise unable to have those experiences in real life, whether it's because of a disability or old age or something in between. And I have a few hikes from Arizona in there. I'm not sure if I shared it with them or not, but I know I have several other hikes from Hawaii that I could share with them if I so chose. So you may see some VR hikes through them. There's the place, looks like an old ruins. I should read the history on that, because I'm not sure if it's actual ruins or if it's just made to look like it. It looks pretty realistic. There's a plaque here. The Secret Garden, donated by John B. McCoy, Ginny McCoy, in honor of their mother, Jean McCoy. Nothing on the history of it, though. Well, teased. Might as well just go in. There's a water feature there in the summer. Walk through to the other side. And then could have just walked around in the path, take the shortcut through, and then there's a little cool tree house here. More like a stump with a fort on top of it, but closed at the moment. To our right is where we would have come from if we'd just gone around on the path. And then another tiny boardwalk, suspension bridge type deal there. More of a lookout than a actual path. And then see some houses to the right of us. It's a little village type area. Walk through there too. It's the Sisters Garden, I think is the name of it. And there's the sisters of the Sisters Garden. From here, you just walk through. Kids love it here. More water feature for summertime use there. It's a working windmill in the summer. Pumps up water. And back out the way we came. Go around this way, we can come back up toward the entrance of the park. We're by the road right now. There's the stage for programs. stone bridge to cross back over toward the parking lot. And we just have a short way back to the parking area. If you've been noticing the maps in the corner along with the statistics in the bottom left with pace, distance, heading, all those sorts of things, I've been recording the GPS on my phone, and it's a really convoluted way of getting those statistics up there because I have multiple exports. Probably won't do that today just because it's a short walk and not necessarily something you need to match pace with or find out where you are in the city. Typically when I have to do that, I export 3 times. So I'll put the video together, export it once. Once that's exported, oh, there's a bluebird. Eastern bluebird, I think. I'll export the video once, put it into another program that's able to read the GPS data, export it again through there. Then I use the GPS data to create an overlay. Go left instead of right to the parking lot. And then once I've exported a second time to create the GPS overlay, I add that to the video, export it a third time to be uploaded. So that takes a long time to do all that, and it's not me sitting there doing something, but it is just time where I may let it work overnight. Each export probably only takes 20 minutes to an hour, but a lot of times if it's toward the end of the day or end of the work week, I don't want to sit there for an hour until I'm late for dinner. I'd rather just leave it off on some runs when it's not quite as intense. Well, next week when I go through a typical training week, I'll try to make sure that I do spend the time putting that GPS data on there if you do want to remember the distance, remember the pace, or remember the route. If there's any treadmill manufacturers listening, I'd love to integrate that information and work something out. So far, Treadmill TV has had 2 sponsors. So each sponsor sponsored a video. Here's from Canada, a video.
What? 2 foot long, 3 foot long.
Both of those sponsors were actually socks, Reflectos for a night running video, and Magic Socks for just a review video, actually. Didn't sponsor creation of a trail video, just a video. It was a good experience for me. Let's try not to get run over here. Here's the entryway we came through at the beginning. Let's see. There's the park information. Is there a full map out here? No. But this is information for the place. I don't need to touch anything. You can look up the map if you want to. Inniswood Gardens in Columbus Metro Park System. It is a very nice place to take a walk in the summer when there's very nice gardening happening here. A lot of portraits get taken here. This is the end of today's walk. So, you can see I bundled up today. and I'm trying a new thing. I'm trying this, look this way, always tries to find my face. I'm trying to use a new microphone system where I try to cut down on the wind. But the bad thing about today is that my scratchy beard is making all sorts of noise inside the hood. Hopefully you enjoyed today's walk, and we'll see you next time.